we are so fortunate today to get the real scoop on environmental toxins that are really destroying our health, zapping our vitality, causing so many of the symptoms that you all often write me about: bloat, belly fat, brain fog, brittle nails, and hair loss, okay, as well as the loss of our bones. And we have the opportunity today to speak with a real expert on this, Dr. Wendie Trubow, MD. So Dr. Trubow speaks not just from having very successfully gone the conventional route. She is board certified in obstetrics and gynecology and has an MBA in healthcare administration as well. I have no idea how you do it all. And you have 4 children. I mean, this is superwoman here. But she also speaks to us from very personal experience. After gaining her conventional credentials, Dr. Wendie went on to do the extra training that is needed to become a functional medicine doctor. And she has a practice in Newton, Mass. Called 5 Journeys, which she shares with her husband, Ed, who's also a doctor, an MD. And they specialize in restoring glorious health to their patients, many of whom are women who have been battling an array of symptoms for years that their doctors can't figure out, or just say, you know, you're just aging. So it's supposed to be normal to not age well. We do not believe in that.
Right.
As a functional medicine practitioner, Dr. Wendie is well aware of the fact that environmental toxins are causing problems. And in addition, she has a very up-close and personal interest because despite, quote unquote, doing everything right and living what she thought was a squeaky clean life, she discovered that environmental toxins were destroying her health. So how she successfully cleaned up her act and regained her amazing vitality and her hair is what she wrote about in her really terrific book, Dirty Girl, which I highly recommend you buy and read cover to cover. So Dr. Wendie's experience, both personal and with her patients, is what we're going to talk about today, along with how all of this relates to you and why you might be losing your bones and what you might start to do about it. So first, thank you, Dr. Wendie, for taking the time out of your incredibly busy schedule.
Lara, it's my pleasure to be here. Please call me Wendie.
Okay. So, Wendie, can you share some of your story with us?
Sure.
Why did you become interested in functional medicine? Why did you start 5 Journeys? And what does that name mean anyway?
Let's start with that, because that actually sets the framework for the whole conversation. And I promise I'll tell you how I got into functional medicine and why we started 5 Journeys. But we really believe that your health is made up of this really complex interplay between what we'll call the 5 core pillars or 5 core areas of health. So your physical body, that's your bones, your muscles, your ligaments, your tendons. That's your posture, whether you're moving your body. That's the physical. Then there's the chemistry, which is what most of us think of as the functional medicine area, which is your hormones, your minerals, nutrients, toxins, your gut function, your sleep, all that stuff that functional medicine deals with. That's that journey. But then there's your emotional journey. It's a core pillar of health, meaning we're so hard on ourselves. We're so unkind to ourselves. We can change the course of our health by the conversation we have with ourselves. You know, that ticker tape that's running, that right now is going, what ticker tape? That ticker tape. But the one that often says, you're so stupid, or how could you have done that? Or who does that? Or why you cannot be better and you're never going to succeed. The ones that really drag us down can actually cause different hormones to be produced or not produced and influence our health. So that's critical. And then I think John Donne said, no woman is an island. And so the connectedness to our community and our social interactions with others is another core pillar of our health. And then lastly, our spiritual journey. So why are you on this earth? What legacy are you here to create? What is your purpose? It could be religious. It could not be religious. It depends whatever your thing is, right? Put those together. That's you. Not just what's your name and how old are you, but those make you you and are unique to you. And usually people need to work on 2 or 3 areas at a time. So when we were starting, so let me back up a million steps. When I was 35, I experienced functional medicine firsthand as a patient. I was 6 weeks postpartum. And my husband was training with one of the only functional medicine doctors in Boston. He was mentoring my husband. And I was a mess. Lara. I was like, I got out of bed because I had to. He was a resident. I was already in attending. So I was the primary breadwinner. And I had to get out of bed every day. So I did. But I was a mess. And so right after we had our second kid, he said, why don't you go have an evaluation? So I did. And he did what I considered at the time to be this crazy workup. And he diagnosed me ultimately with celiac disease, which is the end result of having an autoimmune reaction to gluten, which is what's found in most of our bread, cake, candy, cookie, pasta, beer. So kind of what we eat as Americans is all gluten. And I already knew about functional medicine sort of peripherally because my husband was interested in it. But, it's like our husbands are interested in a lot of things, and I didn't necessarily dive into all of them, right? So it came to my consciousness at that point because it got personal, because I was suddenly able to, it really was impacting me head to toe. I had brain function, memory loss, thyroid dysfunction, everything gut related, bloating, gas, diarrhea, constipation, you name it, I had it sometimes on the same day. And then I had fertility challenges, which I made up for, but I had some fertility issues. I had 4 kids and I was wasting. So I was about 10 pounds lighter than I am now. And I'm on the slim side now. And I just didn't feel well. I had heart palpitations. I was anxious. I just didn't feel well. And that diagnosis transformed me because I didn't have I got rid of most of those things. And then I spent that was sort of like, wow, I didn't know you could feel like that. I just figured everyone kind of slogged through their days and that's not normal. It might be common, but not normal. And so then I actually went into functional medicine because I was so inspired by it. It was like, this is how I want to treat people. And I was doing delivering babies, doing surgery, doing gynecology, office care. And what occurred to me was there are a lot of people who can do that. They have good hands. They're good at that. There aren't a lot of people who can do what I do, which is get to the root of the issue, fix it, and have people transform their health. That's a much smaller group of people. So I'm going to go be in that group of people because I'm not abandoning my patients if I leave them to other people delivering their babies or doing their surgeries, because there's a lot of people to do that. And then, so that's part one. And then we started 5 Journeys because we really wanted to bring this approach into the world in a way that was sustainable, scalable, reproducible, and widely applicable and able to be grown widely in the country. So this is our flagship office, the start of it, and we're now in the process of growing.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. I hope you get out to Seattle.
Me too.
We need you out here. Actually, we need you all across the country.
Yeah.
So many people people write to me all the time and they cannot get the help that they need.
Yeah, I think that's really the question is how do we bring this, how do we essentially reproduce ourselves? But, we've got years of training. How do we distill that, bring it, train people in it, and then bring it wide so that everyone gets the benefit, So that was how I got into it, how we named our company, and why we did it.
And you are busier than ever. So why do you think environmental toxins have become such a common and nasty problem for virtually, all of us, especially as we age?
Well, if you live on this earth, you are exposed to toxins no matter what you do every day. So that can range from the food you're eating. So if you're eating food that's not organic, or if you're eating food that is organic, that was made right next to a non-organic farm, or grown right on a non-organic farm, and they spray, and that spray drifts over into your food, you're getting exposed to herbicides, pesticides, and insecticides. And let's talk about glyphosate, which is the most commonly used herbicide in the world. It's something like 250 million pounds of it was used in 2014. So we're talking many years ago at this point, 8 years ago. And it was originally developed as an antibiotic. And what do antibiotics do? They kill off the microbiome. Guess what? Glyphosate messes with your microbiome, and it's implicated in a number of different lymphocytic cancers. So that's just one way, right? That I've just sort of picked on glyphosate, but I know this is a show about osteoporosis, so let's talk about bone health. If you're female and you were born before 1978, your home likely had lead paint in it. And as that house settles, you get exposed to it, and bones are where lead that you've been exposed to hangs out. So it doesn't just hang out in your bloodstream, it goes to your bones. And then it replaces your normal bone with lead, which makes you sound like you're titanium legs, but you're not. Your bones are actually more porous. So that's another way that you can get exposed to a toxin. And, if you have a lead pipe heading into your home, you're drinking your lead. There are also chemicals on our furniture, on the construction products we use, our cleaning products, you name it. I mean, our hair products, hair dyes, makeup, nail polish. It's very horrifying when you dive into it because you sort of go, there's nothing sacred, right? Tea bags have plastic in them. And so you're like, oh, I'm going to have a nice tea bag, but cup of tea at the end of my day. Well, guess what? You're getting exposed to plastic. So these are all endocrine disrupting things, and the endocrine disruptors alter our ability to keep our bones healthy, have energy, sleep properly, have healthy hair. Sorry, I just hit my microphone. It just snowballs and dominoes.
So, we're not going to have time today to talk about all the different kinds of toxins that you cover in the book.
Yeah.
But, in addition to lead, you want to talk a little bit about how plastics and processed foods damage us and what we can do about it?
Yeah. I mean, I do think
get this stuff out. I mean, we know it's coming in.
Right.
So what can we do to protect ourselves and eliminate it?
So I think there's a couple of layers to this. I think it's always important not to fill your pump up with toxins. And so the more that we can, I call it voting with your feet. And what I mean by that is don't buy the products that are bad for the earth and bad for us. So if you have the option to buy something in a can versus a bottle, go for the can. Go for the glass bottle or not the plastic bottle. Start by just saying, I'm not going to buy anything that comes in a plastic bottle, period. Okay? And it's hard sometimes, I'll do my shopping online and I'll sort of be going quickly and I'll realize, wait, I put the plastic bottle of seltzer into my cart instead of the glass bottle. So you have to be really careful, but don't buy anything in a plastic bottle. Don't heat your food. Don't store your food in plastic. Don't heat your food in plastic. These are all endocrine disruptors. And what I mean by that is it alters your hormone receptor. It binds to the same hormone receptors that your estrogen might, because it kind of looks like estrogen to your body, except it's not. But you still process it the same way. So you're increasing the load on your liver in order to get rid of it. So going back to don't fill the pump up. Try to avoid eating it, buying it, ingesting it, hanging out on it, that kind of thing, right? And then the question is, how do we optimize our bodies so that we can get rid of it? So I think you and I are on the same page, especially with your husband. Always start with the gut. If your gut's not healthy, it can't get rid of toxins. So evaluate your gut. You should poop every day, sometimes 2 to 3 times a day. Actually, every time you eat, you should poop. That's kind of the normal. I know, right? I learned that in med school. I was like, who does that? I don't do that. I was already well on my way to being celiac at that point. I wasn't pooping. So, it's called the oroanal reflex. Eat, poop. That's normal. Okay. I know, right? So make sure you're pooping every day. It's not normal to have bloating, gas, diarrhea, constipation. It's common. But if you have any of those, that would warrant a workup from a functional medicine provider. If you go to your conventional doctor, they're going to look to see whether you have any of the infections that'll kill you. You probably don't have any of those. So it's not it's like going to your mechanic to get your teeth cleaned, right? It's just not the right person to go to. So I would recommend finding a functional medicine provider who can do a gut evaluation and say to you, okay, well, look, your lactobacillus is quite low, or you have a number of pathologic bacteria, or there's inflammation. Like, let's fix your gut first, and then fix your liver and your adrenals, because I call that the Trinity. So if you have, remember how I said you have this stressful thought, you can alter your health. Say you wake up in the morning and go, oh my God, I have this big presentation today. I'm not going to do well. What's going to happen? Oh, I'm not prepared. All of a sudden, you have these thoughts. Guess what? You've now triggered your adrenals to start putting out fight, flight, or freeze hormones. Guess what? That tells your gut and your liver, don't do your regular things. Don't do your normal detox and processing. We're going to focus on crisis management, which is survival. Okay? Mm-hmm. So now, instead of getting rid of your toxins through your poop, you've shut down pooping because you don't need to poop when a lion's chasing you or about to eat you. You need to get away, right? So you then crave sugar because you need a quick source of glucose to put to your muscles. You don't detox. The liver shuts down and instead releases its sugar sources. And so what's really critical in terms of doing detox is guard your thoughts, manage your stress, ensure that you have appropriate sleep, time to offload, de-stress, eat food that works in your body, clean out your colon regularly by pooping, do all those things that help you, right? And then the third layer to that is there's so many things that help you detox. Do you want me to be specific, like do this, this, and this, or do you want me to go big picture, Lara?
Well, I think many people are not even aware of the big picture.
Okay.
So could you start there, and then we could talk about a few specific things if something comes up I think would be really helpful for our audience?
Definitely. So there's a number of things you can do that help you big picture detox. One, don't drink alcohol. Okay. This is not a popular one. Most people
not even just a glass of wine, like a few days a week.
It depends on you. If I had if I had a glass of wine a few days a week, that would not work for me. So you have to honor your body's needs. If you're a good detoxer, which I am not, I'm a terrible detoxer. So if you're a good detoxer, then yeah, you can do that. But I think you first have to know whether you're a good detoxer or not by going to not only your clinical symptoms, but looking at your DNA and looking at your MTHFR genes and your vitamin D genes and your COMT. There's a number of detox genes that you can look at. So one is don't drink alcohol. 2, sweat. I know it's not ladylike, right? We're supposed to be calm, cool, and collected, but sweating is actually really good for you because it's a major way that you release toxins from your body. So any way you can sweat, going in a sauna, going in an Epsom salt bath, taking a hike, or any kind of exercise class. Now, I always get this question, but what about weights? You need those too, but that's not so much for detox as muscle building. But you need cardio type sweating in order to detox. Okay? Get enough sleep. We're so conditioned to be proud of like what warriors we are and how we can get by on 4.5, 5 hours of sleep. And honestly, for most of us, that doesn't work because when you sleep, it's kind of creepy. The cells in your brain shrink down so that the pathways between the cells enlarge. It's like they enlarge the highway to let the brain drain out of toxins. So you actually do detox when you sleep. And so it's really important to do that. You recover when you sleep. Okay. And then there's a lot of things that support obviously don't challenge the liver and by giving it alcohol, but you can do a lot of things that boost the liver. You can eat your way to health. Brightly colored foods, spiced foods. Not necessarily spicy, but essentially the Asian and East Indian flavors of turmeric and curry and ginger, sort of the hotter flavors, actually do help detox. And so making those a part of just, I add ginger to my chicken or I add turmeric to my salad dressing. Whatever you can do to get that in is impactful.
There's one of AlgaeCal's products is called Triple Power, and it's EPA, DHA, curcumin, and astaxanthin.
Yep.
And they've had has great effects on people. I think part of it is that the curcumin is emulsified, and so it's much better absorbed than from a shaker of an herb. Unfortunately, I think it's really important if people are going to be cooking with curcumin or turmeric rather. Curcumin's the active ingredient in turmeric. If you're going to use turmeric for cooking, you want to make sure you're using it with some oil. Yeah. Cooking something in oil so that it will emulsify. And you can.
Yeah, 100%.
So on the plastics, could we drill down a little bit on plastics? I don't think most people are really aware of where all this stuff is. And it's not only in the plastic container, but it's in your sports drink bottle and in the linings of cans. And can you talk a little bit about that and maybe about some of the different bisphenols and
yeah, it's pretty horrifying, Lara. Just to warn your listeners, it's not like a happy conversation because you sort of look around and go, oh, it's in everything. Plastics were developed to make materials more flexible. And since they were developed, we've really wholeheartedly taken them on, but they've also found their way into a lot of different items that we use. So I always think about the single-use plastic water bottles, but it's funny, I was really blindsided one day by a patient who said to me, what about my kombucha? And I said to her, how are you getting your kombucha? She said, I buy it from Whole Foods in that lovely bottle. I went, is that plastic? She goes, yeah. I was like, no more of that. So anything that's a plastic bottle is a problem. Okay. The plastic storage food storage containers. Now, the hard plastic, I'm not going to go too crazy over hard plastic if you never put anything hot in it. If it's only cold, I'm not going to go as crazy. But if it's heated, you do start to release those bisphenols into the plastic, and then you drink it. So people will say to me, oh, well, I keep my water bottles in the fridge of these little plastic things. And I'm like, but you don't know what it did before it got to you. You have no idea what the chain of evidence did. So you can't say that that's actually good. And then the next layer to that is that anything that's really bad for the earth is also really bad for us, and it never degrades. So it's much better if you can find an alternative to using a single-use plastic water bottle because it never goes from the landfill. It just sits there. So that certainly the lining of cans, I think a lot of Whole Foods cans now are not lined with bisphenol A, but this is a pretty potent endocrine disruptor.
Right, but the research that we've seen recently on the bisphenols, they have replaced bisphenol A with, so they say it's no bisphenol A, and that's supposed to be great, and then you feel like it's safe. But they've replaced the bisphenol A with two other bisphenols, either bisphenol F or bisphenol S, and the research that's coming out shows they're worse.
Right.
They're worse.
Right.
So you buy this stuff, it still has bisphenol in it. I think it's really, if people can, I don't know how you get everything done in your life, but like what I try to tell people to do is instead of buying canned food, buy an Instapot,
Right.
and soak your beans overnight, throw them in the Instapot, and cook your own beans, and then put them in glass containers and put them in your freezer. Then you only have to cook beans, every few weeks,
right.
And you've got plenty. And it costs you a tenth of what it would cost you to buy it in a can, and you miss out on those bisphenols. I know it's harder to do these things for ourselves because we've become so used to just using processed foods. And they're really not good.
Yeah, it's so, I think, and the thing that I think is really important to have the conversation about is making a better choice, not necessarily a perfect choice, because this conversation makes women nuts. I can't tell you how many times, my patients will call me and go, Dr. T, I can't do it. I'm like, no, you got this. You've got this. We just have to go a little bit less right now, right? Like, you can't, so even us, like, we cook for 10 people. And usually right? So I'm kind of like on the day of, I'm like, what am I making today? I'm not someone who can plan my meals a week in advance, partly because also we get a farm share. I don't know what I'm getting until yesterday. So I can't do my shopping on the weekend it's like none of it comes together.
Right.
So we're always like seat of our pants. So I could imagine people are listening and going, I don't do that. I don't have space in my freezer for that. Then I go, okay, if you're going to have canned beans, then have that be a day that you make sure you sweat. Take extra N-acetylcysteine. Don't drink your alcohol. Make sure you reduce your stress and sleep. Like, work on the other ways that you're going to get it out if you're going to do it. Because certainly living on this earth makes it very challenging to have a job, get food on the table, and have that food be clean. So if you can eliminate the cans, get rid of them. But if you can't, don't make yourself nuts. Because, it's literally everywhere. Nail polish, beauty products, all of it.
Right. So do you recommend any apps for people to use to find better products? Can you talk about that a little bit, what you suggest people do?
Yeah, so I would suggest not doing what I do, which is to get all excited about a new product that has really cool packaging, buy it, and then go, I didn't check environmental working group for that one. So don't do as your doctor does, okay? Because I'm always greenwashed. I'm like, oh, that's such a great, I didn't check. So I'm trying to get in the habit of anytime I'm going to buy a product, my two favorite apps are Environmental Working Group, EWG.org, or the Think Dirty app, which is an actual app. Both of them have an app. And I tend to go for EWG because I found it first and I'm just more comfortable with it, but they're both fantastic. Okay. And you can search by product or you can search by category. So what I usually recommend, because we haven't really talked about all those products we have in our life, what I say is, as you're running out of something, look on either Think Dirty or EWG. Is it even clean? Maybe you hit the jackpot and did a good job first time around. I did that with my Physicians Formula pressed powder. It was an organic one, and it was actually rated #1. So I was like, okay, cool. Right? I was like, whoa, how did I do that? So always check, because every once in a while you'll be psyched at what you find. And then if it's not rated, highly rated, or if it's rated with some kind of endocrine disruptor or cancer promoting agent, then you're going to want to level up and you go, okay, that's where you stop searching by product and search by category and say, okay, face bronzer, what's available? What's in my budget? Where do I get it? They'll point you to the product and then you can look for it, but only do it when you're running out, as opposed to just, don't clear out your entire medicine chest all at once.
Yeah, when Joe, he lectures all over the world about environmental toxins, and after he had read a certain amount of research on plastics, we just decided to get rid of everything in our house that had plastic in it, and it was bags full of stuff. Yeah. And then I had nothing to store any food in.
I've been struggling with that.
It was rather challenging for a little while until we could order something.
What did you end up getting? Because I've really struggled. We have glass, but my kids are like, it's too heavy.
Oh, we use it's Pyrex.
Yeah, we have
Pyrex glass containers, and they have a glass lid. So we had a lot of trouble trying to find something that didn't have you can get the glass bottom, but then it has a plastic lid, and we didn't want, if you have to use a glass bottom with a plastic lid, then you just try to not have the food touch the plastic.
Yeah, never have the plastic.
Not coming in contact with the plastic, it's better. Yeah, I get a lot of questions from people, or can I use my my sports bottle? It's a big plastic one. And even though, it's not going to be heated, I still think it's better for people to invest in a, one that is stainless steel or glass, like what you're using. So there you are. Yeah. And not drink out of a plastic bottle, because you have to wash them out eventually. Right. I mean, you don't always reuse your plastic bottle, even if it's a good heavy sports one. Right. And then they're going to degrade, the stuff, and then it's going into the water and going into you. Yep. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it's always like, make a better choice, right? What my mom used to carry around the single-use plastic water bottle in her purse. She's almost 80, and so it's heavy for her. But I was like, Ma, you can't. You just come on, look. I'm like the poster child. You cannot do that. It's bad for you. She's really into this stuff too. So she's like, what am I going to do? So we went on Amazon. I call him my boyfriend. I went to my boyfriend, and he's very nice. He sends me everything I want. And we found an 8-ounce water bottle that's stainless steel. It's so cute. It is so cute. And she stuck it, and it fits right in her purse, because she's a crossbody bag. It fits right in her purse, and she can fill it, clean it, and she's happy. I'm like, look, you're being good for the earth. You're being good for your body, because there's nothing in that. And we tested it. That's another concern, is like, is there lead in the metal? Are you like leveling up just about lead in your body? So you can actually do 3M has these test strips that will allow you to do sort of point of use. Is there lead in my metal? So I got it. And she's like, great. I'm like, no, we're going to test it first. So it's like the whole thing makes you crazy, right? Because you're like, I have to make sure it's good. So if you're going to do stainless steel, just test it. Okay.
So can we put a link later to those test strips or a name or something?
Yeah, I got them off Amazon. I got them off Amazon. Okay. My boyfriend.
We'll go to your
sends me everything.
Okay. So I'm trying to think of what else. What about cadmium? Can we talk a little bit about cadmium?
Yeah, cadmium.
I know that's a huge concern for bone.
Yeah, cadmium is found in West Coast oysters. I think I've never had a West Coast oyster in my life, but you probably have because you're on the West Coast. No?
Don't eat them?
I don't care for oysters. My kids love that kind of stuff, and I'm always like, I got a consistency issue with that. I don't like I don't know, not into that. So I've never eaten them.
Texture.
Yeah, texture. So the West Coast oysters, tobacco, batteries. So if you're smoking, you're getting exposed to it. If you're eating West Coast oysters, and batteries can, if you're handling batteries, that can do it. And it can hang out in bones. It can also make you look like you have the flu. So if you've eaten some oysters and you just don't feel right and you're like, I'm achy, I have some GI stuff, it can also be cadmium related.
It's my understanding that the high phosphate fertilizers that they use in conventional agriculture have cadmium in them, like a fair amount of it. And so that it then goes into the soil and then the plants absorb it. And then when you eat the plant, you absorb it. And so it's in the drinking water. It sneaks into our home in dust from contaminated soil, and we can even inhale it from the ambient air. If it's in the Seattle area, they did a study here at the University of Washington a few years ago now, and they found really high levels of cadmium in postmenopausal women with osteoporosis, and they correlated it with osteoporosis. And so I think that's a really important one to try to avoid. It wrecks your kidneys and then it wrecks your bones. But do you have any suggestions for, I guess, again, we want to go back to not eating conventionally grown foods that are high phosphate fertilizer raised.
Yeah. I mean, one is don't expose yourself to it. And then how I always think of detoxification for metals I think of it as a bar stool, even though I don't drink. So I say to people, okay, you always want to work on your fundamentals. Make sure your gut is good. Make sure you're pooping, sleeping, de-stressing, moving your body, doing the things that are going to keep your body in the right place. That's the foundation. That's one peg of the bar stool. Then one peg of the bar stool is let's optimize your liver. One, by I don't not drink because of detox. I don't drink because I just don't feel well when I drink. And I don't want to do anything that's going to make me not feel well because I feel like I don't have the time to not feel well. So don't drink alcohol. That's one way to not stress the liver, but then optimizing it, giving it the minerals and nutrients it needs in order to optimize its function. It needs NAC and alpha lipoic acid. It needs glutathione. It needs certain things to work properly. So give the liver what it needs. That's prong 2. Prong 3, bind the metals. So I know that your husband uses both DMSA and fiber. You can also use other specific binders. So using binders to bind to that metal so that you can either pee or poop it out. And then the last prong is you can particularly deplete the body of minerals and nutrients, especially zinc when you do this. So making sure that you're on a nice high quality multivitamin so that you're getting the replacement for what you're pulling out. And so not only don't get exposed, but then also support the body in moving it along, because if you're not supporting the gut, you're going to recycle that metal that you were hoping to get rid of. You're going to recycle it in your body.
I've also read that the doctor named Stephen Genuis, he's in Canada. I don't know if you've read any of his papers. He's brilliant. one of the most interesting papers he has written that I've read in the last couple of years is one where he discusses the fact that if you have an abundance of healthy minerals, that calcium, you're less likely to absorb the unhealthy ones. So people take vitamin D to help them absorb calcium, and if they're not getting enough calcium, then that vitamin D is going to help them absorb maybe some minerals they don't want to absorb.
That makes sense.
Lead or cadmium, mercury. Right. So I think it's really, really important to ensure that your mineral intake is good, which is one of the things. I think that's one of the reasons AlgaeCal, at the bone health supplement AlgaeCal Plus is so helpful for people, because it is a really good source of all the minerals, like not just calcium and magnesium, but a lot of trace minerals that are naturally present.
Yeah, and it's like the crowd out theory, right? You're crowding out the bad stuff with the good stuff.
Yeah. So, well, I think we've covered a lot of territory. Is there anything in particular about Dirty Girl that you'd like to share with the audience today?
I think it's a fun read. I think it's a horrifyingly fun read, right? So it's I mean, you said to me you read it on the plane ride, and then actually came back for more. I was like, oh, all right. I mean, it's horrifying when you sort of think about all the ways in which we're exposed to toxins. And so you're never going to be toxin free. I don't want you to read the book and go, I'm going to get rid of all my toxins. No, what you want to do is get rid of the toxins and get rid of the body burden so that you're not being impacted, so that your mitochondria can be happy, so your telomeres can be happy, so your DNA can reproduce properly, and so you can have a long, healthy life. Ultimately, that's what we want, right? Is years of no illness where we can be of contribution and service and make a difference in the world, right? So Dirty Girl's all about that. All about how I inadvertently became the poster child for being a dirty girl, and then how to climb out of that hole and lead a different life, go down a different path, and have different vitality as a result.
One of the things I really liked about the book were the hot tips at each section. Can you talk about how you organize that?
Yeah, I mean, writing this book was really an interesting experience, because how do you get your thoughts in a way that will communicate for others? And so as we were sort of winding our way through, it got very clear that, as you read this chapter, each chapter has the hot top tips at the end. And what we wanted to do is really boil it down. If you didn't read the chapter and you just went right to the end, could it be impactful for you? And I would say yes. If you just did the hot top tips and did all of them, it's like 30 or 40. If you did all of them, that would make a really big impact on your life. And so the whole purpose was, how can we distill it for people if they don't really want to read a lot? How do we make it like, here's the top 3 to 5 things that you need to do around food or alcohol or beauty products or home care. Distill it down. So that's what we did.
Makes it a lot more approachable, because frankly, reading the book is a little overwhelming.
It is.
I mean, there's just so much really scary information about how we're just swimming in a toxic soup.
We are.
And when people write into me, I will very often say to them, have you been checked for heavy metals? Have you had a gut function test run, whatever? And people just think that, we all are trying to do the best we can for ourselves. And I think most people think that they're living a pretty clean life, and they don't realize that even if you're doing the best that you can, if you're not aware of things that are impacting you, you're just getting overloaded with stuff that's really damaging you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And the problem is that you often don't have symptoms until you're really far down that dysfunctional path. So it's, unless you get a massive exposure, if you get a massive exposure to cadmium or lead, it can kill you. But most of us aren't getting that. We're getting what I'll call the slow drip of torture. And so we get a little bit here and a little bit here. But don't forget, we're getting a little bit of the bisphenols, and we're getting a little bit of the phthalates, and we're getting a little bit of the herbicides, glyphosate. We're just getting a lot of little things. And that's not been studied, Lara, because you can't study it. There are too many variables to look at. What's the impact of daily exposure to a lot of little things over time? you can't study that. But what we can tell you is when you take those away, you take away the risks for major dysfunction. So cancer, degenerative diseases, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, osteoporosis, those are the major degenerative diseases that people suffer from. You take that away if you can take away exposure to toxins. It's pretty cool.
I think it's what I really like about it is that not only is it inspiring, but it is really doable.
Yes.
The small things that you suggest that people do at the end of each section are very easily accomplished.
Yeah. Small things
They're
are
not, nothing that. Yeah, they do.
They really do.
In both directions,
Yeah.
The small bad things and the small good things. Okay, well, do you have anything else you'd like to share about the book, or should we kind of let you get back to the 3,000 things you have to do this afternoon?
No, I'd say, I'd love to be in touch with people. I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Wendie Trubow MD. I'd love people to come follow and be in touch, and then read the book. Try not to be too horrified, and remember that Rome wasn't built in a day, and you won't be either. So it's a process. It's a journey. It's not a destination. It's just becomes the way of life, and we've got this. We can do this.
Yes, I think we can, and you certainly are an example of the vitality that you can have if you just make a few simple changes in your life.
Yes, it's doable.
So I want to just thank you again for tuning in with us and sharing your time and expertise with us. And I want to again suggest that please, take a look at Dirty Girl. To everybody listening to this, I think you'll be really glad that you did, and it will be a huge help to you.
Thank you, Lara. Thanks for having me on.
Okay. Oh, you're so welcome. Well, I can't tell you how much I have enjoyed getting to know you.
Yes.
And I really appreciate your time, and I hope that it will help a lot of the people listening today.
Ditto. Right back at you.
All right. Bye.
Bye, Lara.